So like I said, this is the birth through the birth through grade 12 family engagement framework update meeting. And this is our first meeting. Thank you everybody for making it here, and thank you for participating. We're very happy to have you here. So this is through the Nevada Department of Education, the Office of Early Learning and Development, the Office of Educator Development, Licensure and Family Engagement Preschool Development Grant, birth through 5, which is PDGB 5. Next slide, please. So everybody should have received an email. The email had some resources with pre-work as well as documents that you needed for today. Among those documents, you're gonna find the agenda, and the agenda is gonna be placed on the chat in the English and the Spanish in case you need it. So today for the agenda, we have the welcome and the overview of the Zoom norms, which is what we just did. Then we're gonna do the overview of the group norms. We're also going to review the network map, and we're gonna have an icebreaker. The network map was something that you were supposed to do as pre-work, where you got to introduce yourself and you talked a little bit about family engagement and what that means to you. We're going to have an overview of the framework and its history. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about what's the commitment for this advisory board and how that looks like. And then finally, we're gonna have an interactive piece once again, which is we're gonna go into breakout rooms, and we're gonna start discussing the family engagement framework definition, because that's something that we're gonna start working on today, and then we're gonna elaborate more. And then we're gonna talk about who's not at the table at this specific in this specific project, and how we can bring those individuals to the table. And then we're gonna go over closing and the next steps. Next, please. So as I talked before, I sent you an email when I sent you the email confirming this meeting. It has a link for the resource folder. So in the resource folder, you're gonna be able to find action items, as well as any documents that you need that you're gonna need throughout the committee. Megan, do you mind pulling it up, please? Perfect. So it should look like this. So it has it in English and Spanish. So action items, it's anything, if you click on it, it's anything that you're gonna need to work on or any pre-work assigned to you. So over here, we're gonna be talking about the group norms, and we're gonna be talking a little bit more about that. Can you go back, please? We also have the meeting resources. So if you click in there, you're gonna be able to find all of the meeting resources. So if you click on January, that's for the meeting. So this is for yes.
Can we navigate to the Spanish PowerPoint? We had some asks in the chat where they can follow along on the Spanish PowerPoint. So Megan, if you can navigate to that folder, then that's the one we can demonstrate together. Thank you.
So for the Spanish folder, if you go back, and you're gonna click on recursos para las reuniones 2.2, and you're gonna click on enero. You're gonna click on 11.1, and then you're gonna open the presentación comité asesor para la actualización right there. If you open it, click on it, and then you're gonna be able to see the PowerPoint, this exact PowerPoint in Spanish, and the same thing is gonna be in the English. It's just gonna be in English. So maybe we can copy and paste the link, Megan, so they can also follow it. Okay, perfect. So thank you for asking that question. So if you go to the resource folder, every meeting, we're gonna have January, February, March. If you click in there, you're gonna be able to find all of the materials, including the agendas, the PowerPoints, and that's gonna be in both languages that you're gonna have it available. Thank you so much for your questions. Next slide, please. Perfect, and now I'm gonna pass it over to my wonderful colleague, Kelly Carr.
Hi, my name is Kelly Carr. I work for the Office of Early Learning and Development here at NDE, and I'm going to take you through a little bit of our group norms. These are some of our group norms that we often use as a common place to ground our work as we collectively come together, bringing a wide array of experiences and perspectives to one place. We would like to use these as a jumping off point in our work today. So we're going to go over them one by one, and then you'll also have an opportunity to provide input and feedback on these norms in case we need to adjust them for this specific group. So we will come together and assume positive intentions as we come together as a group. We will also be accepting that these conversations and topics are ongoing and they may not end in final conversations every time. We commit to be present to reduce distractions and stay engaged during our time together. We are going to allow space for change and accept that we are not perfect and we are all still learning. We're going to step out of our comfort zone as needed, and that this is a safe place. What you say here stays here, and what is learned here leaves here. We're going to try to honor our equity and diversity of voices in and outside of the room, knowing that we have different perspectives, different experiences, and we can also voice those of people who are not here today. So those are kind of our standard norms with coming together, but we value your input into this workspace, and we invite each of you to offer other comments or suggestions about these norms in our shared document. That link is going to be dropped in the chat. And to preserve our time today for discussions in breakout rooms, we would like you to visit the document and provide feedback on these norms after our meeting. This link will also be sent out in the follow-up email. Suggestions that you may provide for adjusting the norms, we will review those as a committee afterwards and then revisit and revise the norms together if needed at our next meeting. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Rachel Stepina, the grant manager for Nevada's Preschool Development Grant, Birth Through 5, to explore our Family Engagement Network map.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you all today. Our team at the Nevada Department of Education has been working very hard to bring everyone to this table here. Megan, our early childhood quality specialist, is behind the scenes navigating the technology for us. Megan, will you please click on the link to pull up the map? Thank you. So this networking map is an interactive way to show our diversity across the state, both geographically and by who we are, and how we unite as individuals with a passion or expertise for family engagement. First of all, don't worry if you weren't able to yet complete the pre-work. I see that we have 27 participants on the map, and there were 59 people who responded as part of this committee. So if you can, while we're talking now, you can add yourself to this map using this little tutorial, or you can do it following our call today. So there are several ways that we can interact through this space, and I want to show you just a few. Over on the left-hand side, you will see the instructions with a hyperlink. Megan, if you can hover just up a little bit. There you go. That hyperlink will take you to the directions with the steps. I tried to fit it all in one screen, but it was practically impossible, so I put it as a hyperlink. So you can click that there with the instructions on how to contribute. So we will just walk through a couple of the people that we have in here so far. Just a second. I need to make sure I slow down for our wonderful interpretation resources today. So as you scroll through the list on the side, you'll be able to see everybody popping up. So Megan, I'm going to have you pause on mine. And if you click on that, it will pull up my picture, and the map is going to jump, but it'll pull it up with the picture that I uploaded. And then you can scroll through this little interaction here to view my responses to the prompts. You can, on the bottom left-hand side, click the little heart if you like that post, or if you click on the comment bubble, Megan, please do that. Thank you. Then it will pull up a different, more slides screen view. And so if you scroll there, you can review the same prompts and my answers. And then on the right-hand side, you can go next. So you can go to the next person or the previous person so that we can really get to know each other. Megan, if you go ahead and click on the X in the upper left corner now, thank you. Another way to interact with the map is to zoom in and zoom out and click on the pins directly. So that is going to pull up a similar view once you click on the pins. This person didn't upload a picture, and that's okay. And if you need technical assistance on how to rename your pin, I can help you with that. It's a bit tricky to explain, so I'm happy to support anybody who needs assistance. So Megan, if you go ahead down to the map in Southern Nevada towards Pahrump, I'd like to show that as another example here. And you can just scroll throughout the state and zoom in and zoom out based on where the pins are. Perfect. Thank you so much for showing us how to interact with the map, Megan. Again, if anybody needs support, just please connect with me. We'll put my email in the chat. And again, there's 59 people on our advisory committee total. We've split our first meeting into 2, including parents. And so we can't wait to see this map fill up with all of our greetings towards each other. And we encourage you to add comments in there. Megan, if we go ahead and return back to the slides now, I will turn the time over to Vivian Bolanos for our next activity.
Thank you, Rachel. So for our next activity, we're going to share a few terms that come to mind when we hear family engagement. So family engagement can mean different things to different people. And so this activity is going to help us see what our peers in this group associate with that phrase family engagement. So you can use your phone or a handheld device to scan the QR code, or you can follow the link in the Zoom chat. Once you follow the link or you've scanned the QR code, you are going to be prompted to share a few words or phrases that you think of when you hear the phrase family engagement. So feel free to enter as many words as you want, or just one word, whatever you feel comfortable with. And so I'll give us a few minutes to complete that. And once everyone has submitted their terms, we're going to see the final final result as a word cloud. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to complete that, and then we'll see what everyone thinks of when they hear family engagement.
Thank you, Vivian. Megan, do you mind going back to the QR code in case people need to scan it again? Thank you.
We can also click on the link in the chat if that is a different medium that you're comfortable with. It should take you to the same opportunity.
So lots of responses so far. We'll do one more minute to let anyone else who wants to chime in have that opportunity. So hopefully you're finishing up your thoughts and you've submitted some words that come to mind when you hear the terms family engagement. So if we look at our word cloud, I see partnership as the biggest word in our word cloud. And typically when we have a word cloud like this, words that have been submitted multiple times will show up bigger than other words. So we can see community, partnership, advocate, team, as those terms that have shown up more than the other terms around it. But also amor or love, together, involvement, trust. So these are all things we're going to explore today. And as you can see by all these terms, we associate differently to the phrase family engagement. And this is why we've gathered today to continue exploring the evolution of what family engagement means to us as a Nevada community. So next, we're going to hear from Rachel again about the purpose of this initiative. And I want to thank you guys for participating in that activity.
Thank you, Vivian. I want to pause here because I think that's so fun. I love seeing everybody's answers show up on the screen. And I can't wait to review that image later. We can send it out with a follow-up and just continue to remind myself and ourselves of those diverse perspectives that we all bring into this space. So the purpose of the Family Engagement Framework Update Initiative is to gather community partners and families to inform the updated Family Engagement Framework, the statewide definition for family engagement, and corresponding toolkit, with an emphasis on family engagement across different age spans, specifically in early childhood ages 0 to 8. We know that the framework was developed to support educators in family engagement best practices through national research and a great deal of partnership. However, we also know that family engagement strategies for a 3-year-old differ greatly than those for a 4th grader and those for a high schooler. We hope each of you with us today can see yourselves and your voices in this framework and in this process. Even though the initiative states an emphasis on early childhood, I want to remind everyone here today that this is a statewide effort spanning birth through grade 12 and even into adulthood. And we have re-engaged community partners, educators, and parents as experts in family engagement to contribute to this update. I'm going to turn the time over to Mia Pace, an education programs professional at the Nevada Department of Education, who, like some of you here, was able to participate in the creation of the original framework that we'll be updating together. Go ahead, Mia.
Thank you, Rachel. And you're right, I did participate in the first initiative, and I look forward to embarking on this process again and working with you all. So thank you for joining us today. In June 2018, the Nevada Department of Education partnered with the Council of Chief State School Officers, or CCSSO, and the National Association for Family, School, and Community Engagement, or NAFSCE, and 12 other states, such as Kansas, Michigan, and Ohio, to form a state consortium on family engagement. The primary goal of the consortium was for each state to identify a coalition of diverse professionals who had an interest in family engagement and help develop a statewide family engagement definition and framework. We had a core team, which consisted of myself and 2 other former colleagues, Alberto Quintero and Rhonda Hutchins. During the initial process, we traveled to attend various consortium meetings about twice a year.
Mia, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We've been asked to pause for our interpreters. If we can just hold for just a couple seconds. We want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to listen today.
For sure. I thought I was speaking slowly, but thanks for the notice.
You are speaking at the perfect pace. That's a great pun. And we're just having a little hiccup with the transition. For those of you who haven't participated in interpretation services before, it's typical best practice to alternate every 15 minutes. And so something happened with the connection for one of our wonderful interpreters. So we will just give them a big shout out right now. We have Rosa Tamayo with us, and we also have Ana Viatoro. And so they both are employees of the Children's Cabinet. All right, it looks like our hiccup is almost resolved. If we can go ahead and give confirmation from our team that we're ready to proceed. Thank you all for your patience.
I'm back on. I'm so sorry. My Wi-Fi is out.
Yes, Anna, let me put you in the interpretation room.
Sí, sí, la puedo escuchar.
I think we're back on.
Okay. Mia, I think we're good to go.
Okay, should I start where I left off or start from the beginning?
Can you start from the beginning? Just kind of recap.
Okay. So in June of 2018, the Nevada Department of Education partnered with the Council of Chief State School Officers, or CCSSO, and the National Association for Family, School, and Community Engagement, or NASCE, and 12 other states, such as Kansas, Michigan, and Ohio, to form a state consortium on family engagement. A primary goal of the consortium was for each state to identify a coalition of diverse professionals who had an interest in family engagement and help develop a statewide family engagement definition and framework. We had a core team which consisted of myself and two former colleagues, Alberto Quintero and Rhonda Hutchins. During the initial planning process, we traveled to various consortium meetings about twice a year, where we received TA, engaged in work groups, and listened to presentations from professionals such as Dr. Steve Constantino, a family engagement expert and author. We also studied the dual capacity family engagement framework published by Harvard's Dr. Karen Mapp. We received guidance to support the development of a state-specific family engagement definition and a birth through grade 12 framework. Additionally, our team decided it was important to include a toolkit within the framework, giving educators and families examples of high-impact strategies. With the knowledge learned from the consortium, we hosted meetings with the Nevada Family Engagement Framework Advisory Committee to interactively devise a definition in the framework. The committee consisted of over 30 professionals throughout the state, offering their expertise and knowledge regarding quality family engagement practices. While devising the definition, a lot of commitment was given to selecting specific words that the committee felt captured components of high impact practices. After devising 3 potential definitions, they were sent out to family members and members of the community so they can vote on their preferred definition. After receiving over 400 responses, the definition was born. The Family Engagement Framework was published in 2021, and I'm excited to say that we also updated it to include a Spanish version. And that is your history of the Family Engagement Framework. Oh, and I'm gonna pass it over to Nyesti, I believe, again.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
So now that you heard a little bit about the purpose, the history of the framework, now let's talk a little bit about the commitment. So when you receive this invitation, we talked about the commitment, and I just want to reemphasize the commitment and what we're trying to achieve when it comes to your time. So we are looking at meeting once a month starting January. So this is our first meeting of 6 meetings for the next 6 months. So yay. So we're looking at January 2024 to August, and we're looking at anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours meeting wise. We are looking at finding many different ways into engaging different individuals. So if you can't participate every single time in these advisory committee meetings, please let us know. There's other ways in which you can get involved. We're going to have focus groups, surveys. We're going to be reviewing lots of documents, writings, getting feedback, so you can help us with that. Or if there's any other way that you would love to participate, don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. As you know, you can contact me, and I would put my email and contact information later on. Megan, can you please pull up the roadmap so we can just give a quick overview of it? So what we want to achieve is, yes, we want to update the framework, but we also want your input. So if you look at the framework back in November, we sent the invitation, the roadmap, we sent the invitation asking if you wanted to participate, and now we are here. So we are here, and what we're gonna do is we wanna gather, feedback about the framework and start really talking about what we need to do when it comes to those components. And today we're gonna be focusing in the definition, as you saw in the pre-work. The next one, today we're going to be working in the definition. We're going to gather all of those pieces. And then in February, when we meet again, we're going to be talking about, okay, what do you, this is what we got. What do you think? How can we move forward? In March 2024, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to bring back what we have, and then we're going to incorporate your feedback and then present it back to you in April. And then we're going to be looking at every single component of the advisory committee framework and seeing what we need to do, what kind of tools in the toolkit, how can we improve it, develop it. So that takes us to April 2024. Then in May 2029, that should be May 2024, I'm sorry. It should say that we incorporate what we gather from you when it came to the information that we got from the framework and how we want to proceed. We come again, we discuss it, and then we gather more feedback. And then in June 2024, we come back, and then we keep talking about the framework, how you want to move forward. Something that I want to disclose is that we are just kind of showing you what. So pretty much is like we come together, we give you something to work on, you give us feedback, then we the Department of Education team comes together, gathers everything you wanted, and then we present it to you. So we're constantly kind of like creating and providing feedback, and vice versa. So we really want you to take a part of this process. So that's why it looks like that. So by July, we're gonna be looking at kind of, okay, we have all of this feedback from every single piece, from the definition, from the toolkit. What should we do? And then we start creating and drafting that updated framework and what we want to update. And then by August 2024, hopefully we have the first draft, and then we start gathering the feedback overall. So then by September 2024, we have that updated framework based on your input, based on how you wanted to move forward. Can you go back to the presentation, please? So now I'm gonna move it over to my colleague, Rachel.
Hi, thanks, Nyesti. For the next portion of our meeting, we're going to be going into breakout rooms. So if you're comfortable, go ahead and turn your video on, and so that we can all really interact with each other. We'll review the directions. And as a prep item, we asked you to review the current definition for family engagement. So in our breakout rooms today, we will be discussing that definition. I suggest that you read it together to kick off your group, say hello, and really just begin to develop some of that culture together as a group. As Mia summarized, a lot of work went into creating this definition. I love seeing everyone's smiling faces. Thank you for popping your videos on. I know not everybody's comfortable. So as Mia summarized, a lot went into that definition, and we recognize that those contributions to the original framework and their importance to the foundation of the update that we're working on together. So with that, we're going to review our task at hand, which is to discuss any changes, adaptations, additions, anything that you think might need to be revised about the current definition. Think through your contexts, any developments in education, your lived experiences, so that we can well-round what was there based on our current context today. There will be 5 breakout rooms. One breakout room will be conducted in Spanish, that is breakout room 1. And we're asking any bilingual English, Spanish, or Spanish committee members to please select group 1. If you identify as bilingual, we encourage you to join that group so that we have a more inclusive culture. You are welcome to self-select the breakout room, but please keep the groups to a maximum of 5 people. You can see the number start to add as people join. So step 1, up on the screen, once you select your breakout room number will correspond to a specific slide for notes that you're going to be working on. Slide 1 will correspond with group 1, slide 2 will correspond with group 2, and so on. Those slides should be linked in the chat. Step 2 is once you're in your breakout room, you need to assign a few roles to some group members. This is your opportunity to say, I can do that. Or if you're not comfortable with that, it's also okay. So please assign a timekeeper. We'll have 15 minutes together. A spokesperson who will be responsible for reporting out during our share out time, and a note taker. The note taker will jot down any relevant conversation points in your slide, and they will also help your spokesperson deliver the message back to our full group. The instructions that we just reviewed together will be available in the slides themselves if you visit slide number 2. We're all working in the same document, but each group will have their own slide, like I previously stated. For step 3, jump into discussion. What do you like about the current definition? Is there anything you would change? Is there anything that you think needs to be adapted based on our current practices in Nevada or your lived experiences? And step 4, together you'll co-create or write a definition inclusive of the points that you discussed. Sometimes in breakout groups, we don't quite get to step 4, so please just do your best and value the time you have together. I believe Nayesti has opened up the breakout rooms for us, and it should, let's check. If they're open, you can go ahead and join the breakout rooms, and we will reconvene in 15 minutes and put in a little groups. We're going to share some of what was discussed in the breakout rooms now with our spokesperson. And as previously mentioned, we all have different definitions of family engagement and what it means to us, whether it be through our professional role or our previous experiences. And so we're going to have our spokespersons share out highlights of our time together. We're going to start with group 1. We also have this part bilingually, so we'll be doing this in both languages before we reopen the interpretation channel. Gracias por su trabajo en grupo. Ahora compartiremos lo que se platicó en las salas de trabajo. Y como se mencionó anteriormente, todos tenemos diferentes definiciones de participación familiar y lo que significa para nosotros, ya sea a través de nuestro rol profesional o de nuestras experiencias previas. Pídale a su portavoz que comparta los aspectos más importantes de su tiempo juntos. In group 1, we'll go ahead and get started with Maria, who has committed, thank you, Maria, to share the message bilingually as well. And then we will reopen our interpretation channel.
So in group 1, we talk about the responsibility word and how sometimes, it's a good word to have in that definition, but it doesn't really give you the whole picture of what do you mean by that. As a family member, like what is my responsibility? What is it expected from me? And as a school system, what is the responsibility as an educator to engage with families? So we are hoping to kind of work on getting this work a little bit more explicit, work like a little bit more explicit in terms of like what are we looking with this. We also talk about in terms of responsibilities for families. It will be great to know like what is my compromise, what is being asked from me, like very clear expectations, hopefully, of like what do you mean about my responsibility. We also talk about when you start talking about family engagement, it's all about mutual respect and honoring what families have to bring to the table. So many times we see that if we don't start with that, then there's not an opportunity to start a relationship that will help you engage in meaningful family engagement strategies or the work that you're trying to do. So really thinking about adding the term of mutual respect and funds, really looking at the funds, honor the family funds of knowledge, and looking at our families as co-creators, not necessarily as just someone that we want to engage, but which is it's just in paper. We also talk about to be as parents, maybe something in this definition about being more, when we talk about responsibility, it's like maybe more open-minded and more available to really engage and give the importance that it deserves when we talk about family engagement. And then when we talk about like what does it mean to us is really being present and compromise ourselves to support our kids and our young adults in the system. Cuando estuvimos trabajando en este equipo número 1, hablamos mucho acerca de la palabra responsabilidad y cómo a veces está escrito de esa manera y no necesariamente estamos hablando acerca de qué es lo que estamos tratando de decir con la palabra responsabilidad, qué es lo que significa, cuál es mi compromiso como padre de familia o como un educador, qué es lo que se está pidiendo de mí con esta palabra. Entonces hablamos mucho acerca de que tal vez tenemos que expandirla y hablar más acerca de expectativas, que sean claras, qué es lo que se está pidiendo que los padres hagan. Muchos de nuestros papás son emigrantes, entonces se ve muy diferente del país de donde vienen a donde estamos y lo que se requiere de ellos. Entonces ser más explícitos en lo que estamos buscando. Hablamos también acerca del respeto mutuo y también de valorar lo que las familias puedan traer con nosotros para cuando están trabajando con nosotros. Entonces, hablar mucho acerca de si no empezamos desde un principio con el respeto mutuo y valorando lo que tienen que ofrecer, a veces ni siquiera llegamos a hacer el trabajo de trabajar con familias porque no estamos honorando lo que tienen que ofrecer de parte de ellos. Y estuvimos hablando también acerca de cómo, regresando a la responsabilidad para los padres que estaban presentes, estaban hablando más acerca de estar disponibles con una mente abierta, tener respeto y darle la importancia a la participación familiar que se merece. Y cuando hablamos acerca de qué significa para nosotros, pues hablamos más acerca de cómo tenemos que estar presentes, pero también comprometidos y unidos, no solamente los padres de familia, sino también unidos a los maestros y al personal educativo para así poder desarrollar a nuestros hijos y a nuestros jóvenes. Creo que fue todo.
Gracias, Maria. And thank you to Group 1 as well. If you need continued interpretation, please go ahead and choose the globe at the bottom of the Zoom screen as well. Gracias, Grupo 1 y María. Si necesita interpretación continua, elija el canal de interpretación en español una vez más en la barra de herramientas de Zoom. And we'll go ahead to move through Group 2. Group 2, while you take yourself off of mute, everyone else should go ahead and join that interpretation channel as needed.
Also, I placed the instructions on the chat. So if you need to follow the instructions written, you can find them on the chat. También puse en el chat las instrucciones por si las quieren leer escritas.
Hi, I was the spokesperson for group 2. And we also talked quite a bit about that word responsibility. And we thought about the potential to change that word maybe to a relationship or collaboration to kind of make it seem more friendly, word friendly, and visually friendly when you're reading it, not so much of a negative thing like a responsibility as a negative thing, as more like a collaboration, a chance, the ability to work together. We also talked about bringing in maybe some verbiage. We do see that it says communities, but it doesn't specifically say lawmakers, which has a big part also about family engagement and also about the future of, you know, the development of children. So if we could bring in maybe lawmakers or something like that into it. We did like the schools, families, and the communities, how they all had equitable access to tools and supports, though it doesn't define what tools. So somebody also in my group had mentioned potentially bringing in like a second kind of, you know, explanation to what kind of tools or what kind of supports could be brought in on that. And yeah, I think that was most of the stuff was mentioned previously in group 1. So
Thank you, Antonia. I appreciate that share out for group 2. Group 3, if you don't mind going ahead and unmuting yourself as the spokesperson to share out for group 3.
Greetings, hello, thank you for having us. Do you by chance have our screen available that we could read off of, or no? I didn't, we already typed in and we're hoping to just read from the screen as well, but a part of our discussion was along focusing on that equitable access piece. When we talked about equity, though, we wanted to be certain that we identified diversity, inclusion, that all of those came together. We really liked the statement, felt it might be a little wordy, so we kind of condensed it. Oh, thank you for pulling that up, Rachel. So here's what we came together and decided on. So family engagement is a joint partnership involving families, communities, and schools, ensuring equitable access to necessary resources. So we had a good discussion about tools versus resources, and kind of liked how resources were more, sounded almost more welcoming for families. So we went with resources instead. But so resources for successful collaboration in the children's development for education and lifelong learning.
Thank you, Julie. And group 3. We'll go ahead and move into group 4. If the spokesperson for group 4 would go ahead and come off of mute, I'll switch the slide there.
Okay, thank you. My name's Eva Melendres, and I apologize. I got my camera working at one point, and then it's one of those really crazy laptops that has 2 cameras. And so if I show you my camera now, you would be looking at my ceiling anyways. So I apologize for that. But we had a really great discussion, and we talked a lot about how we think we should maybe incorporate a little bit more about really having more voice for the families. So we talked about we ended up just having a great discussion about what does tools means, similar to I think what 1 and 2 were saying, just a little bit more. Maybe that word should be switched out with resources, like that might be a more family friendly word, and that they could respond more to, because tools almost has a negative connotation, like that something needs to be fixed maybe, or needs to be, and so we certainly would want to look at it from more of an asset based, and so resources is better, that they're accessing resources and so forth, and it doesn't give the same kind of a connotation. We also talked a little bit about wanting to honor their funds of knowledge and honoring families culturally where they're at, meeting them where they're at, and so forth. So we talked a little bit about that. So we know that honoring is already in one of the framework's other values, but just wanting to see how we could maybe incorporate a little bit more of that into the definition. Not sure where we would put that, but just talked a little bit about that. And so we had a great discussion about that. And those were kind of the areas that we discussed of how we can put a little more of a family focused emphasis into the definition itself.
Thank you. Thank you, Eva. And we'll go ahead, and the rest of group 4 as well. We'll go ahead and share group. Were there 5 groups today? It's gonna be different. Thank you. Okay, so that was the end for group 4. If we want to, because we have a few extra minutes, I'll go ahead and stop sharing and Megan can pick up the screen again. And we have a little bit of time for any response or continued discussion on anything that was shared. So if you have anything else that you're like, oh yeah, this too, we can go ahead and open that up. Something in group 1 that we were briefly discussing was how often we do engage the voices of families who are speakers of the language other than English. And so we had a curiosity about the original definition, how many languages that survey had gone out in and how many responses were received, just to really look at that equity of language lens. But I don't know if there was anything else from other groups that also came up that you'd like to bring forward.
This is Mia. I will say, I recall the conversation around schools being like a huge debate. I can't really recall why we decided to go with that particular word, but we were vacillating between resources and tools. And so it's interesting that folks are bringing that up because it was one of the words that were up for debate during our last convening.
This is the part where we may step outside our comfort zone. So again, reminding you of our group norms, that this is a safe space together, and what is said here stays here, and what's learned here will leave here. So just wanted to remind you of that. We love hearing and seeing all of you as much as possible.
This is Karen Holly. I just want to add, one of the groups noted that they thought it was a little
Tal
long.
vez sería bueno que tuvieran como recurso, ¿verdad? En los 2 idiomas y pues involucrar siempre a los papás o no sé, para que poderles ayudar, por ejemplo, en casa si ellos tienen problemas con la lectura o algo que podemos hacer o cómo podemos ayudarles, por ejemplo. Tal vez que nos puedan dar consejos en el futuro o reuniones, no sé, tal vez alguna vez al mes o algo en las escuelas donde nos pudieran como dar educación para padres, tal vez, para el apoyo de nuestros hijos.
Gracias. Thank you, Adriana. I think we had a hiccup with technology. So Karen, thank you also for speaking up. If you want to add to that as well. Adriana, if I can summarize your comments, I'm not sure if you are listening into the English or the Spanish because you said you are bilingual in both. But she was just speaking to having some of those strategies for families and really an understanding of what those resources are and some of those strategies that may come from the toolkit, but that might not yet be a deep dive or visible to our families. So Karen, also, if you'd like to share.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the groups talked about the definition being too long, and I tend to agree with that because I think it's kind of like a mission statement, or you want to make a statement, you want to make it strong, you want to make it quick so people can remember it and feel it quickly. So I do like the idea of trying to shorten it a bit, even though our group didn't discuss that. That's just me personally.
I agree with Karen on that. I know our one of the members in my group stated that too. Even as a parent, I feel as though it might be too much information. So as he mentioned, which was a great point, maybe breaking it down into steps instead of just having overall like a long, lengthy term of what family engagement is, or like a long mission statement, maybe especially for, well, for everyone, but mainly for parents, maybe, you know, to have more information on how they could be involved and have it minimize it to steps. And I forgot his name, but thank you. I actually, he had encouraged us about that information too, but I just wanted to state that as well. And I agree with him and Karen and others.
Someone from our group had suggested having a cheat sheet or kind of a definition to explain some of the keywords within the definition as a reference. So we didn't feel like we had to pack and explain everything in the actual definition.
I love that idea of connecting that into the framework itself, right? Calling out those areas that emphasize those critical pieces of our definition. And certainly hear you about the link. That was something that came up in our group too. We have time for about one more comment if anybody else would like to share. As a mom of 3 young children, I have been working on my patience myself and the teacher wait time. So thank you for that pause together. We'll go ahead and move forward with our presentation. Your ideas are always welcome. Please put them in the chat, share them over email, or write them down for our next time together. Next, we're going to be hearing from Kelly to share a little bit about who is represented by our committee members as a whole. Remember, there's 59, and we've split this meeting into 2, so about half of us are here today.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. So this is a very simple breakdown of what ages and grade levels are being served by members of our committee. And our committee included 59 responses to the statewide invitation. From this, we see a large chunk of about 30% of our committee members serving children in early childhood, infancy through age 8, and another large chunk serving students and families through grade 12. This is in alignment with needing the entire continuum of perspectives and experiences required for a true birth through grade 12 framework update. We also have parents with us throughout this process and some community members who serve through adulthood. Thank you to everyone who joined to create this process. Your voices are essential to this work. Next slide. When we think about who is at the table, it also makes us think about who may be missing from the table. So as we consider who may not be here, this graph is here to show us who our committee members are by the specific age levels that they serve. You can see a large variance within some of these amounts. So we look to you guys for your continued recommendations for this committee as we begin this work. If you have suggestions for members who are not currently at the table with us but may want to be joining our work, please email them to Nayezdi. She'll be sharing her email here soon. And we can also drop her email in the chat for you guys. Just a reminder, you can also review that network map to see who is part of this work and that we covered at the beginning of the meeting. So you can start to consider who may not be at the table that should be invited. I'll turn it back over to Nancy.
Thank you, Kelly. Next slide, please. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Like I said, this is the beginning stage. This is the commitment, like as we went over, the commitment is starting in January for the next 6 months, including January. We're gonna meet once a month from about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And we're trying to find various diverse dates and times and dates where everybody can participate to at least a few of them or all of them. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and schedule our February and March meeting coming up. So if you can pull up your phone or on your computer, you can fill out the doodle poll. So then that way we can set the meeting for the next 2 months. We also want to make sure that, we know how to improve so we can bring better presentations as well as better setups for you that works for you. So please make sure you fill out the evaluation and you let us know how we're doing. We're very interested. We're always looking at growing and improving. We would be sending over an email with a recap, as well as any information that might be pertinent in our next meeting in February. Like I said, we'll bring what we gather from this presentation and tomorrow's presentation, which is the same content, but once again we wanted to give that access to various individuals. We'll bring what we got from the definition, we'll present it to you, and then at that point we'll have that conversation a little bit more about what should we do? How should we tackle the framework? Like I said, this is a very fluid project where we want it to be a two-way street for you also to kind of put your cadence, your input, your feedback, and for us to also be there to listen, because at the end of the day, those voices at the table, that's what we want. Once again, if you look at the network map, and if you don't see someone and you think that someone should be at the table or it's an important person to be connected in either way, contact me and let me know that name and I will reach out to that person. Please make sure you you read the emails that we send. You look at the pre-work. We would be giving you some pre-work most meetings, so then you can come prepare and then we can have an engaging and interesting discussion. And once again, I just want you to remember that if you can't come to every single meeting, we have different ways in which you can engage. What we want to do is for you to be engaged and for your voice to be at the table in one avenue or another. And now I'm going to stay over, but please make sure you fill out that evaluation, which is 10 questions. It would really help us, improve and be better when it comes to working with you as a committee and also presenting the information. Rachel, do you have any question or anything you want to add?
I do, yes. I'm going to pop the screen share over here, and we didn't include it earlier in the presentation. We didn't know if we would have time to share this, but on our title slide, we did introduce that part of this work is connected to the state's preschool development grant, Birth Through 5. So I'm going to just share that logic model with you, which has one additional QR code on it. And this takes you to an area to learn more about the work and the funded opportunities in the preschool development grant. So this statewide grant serves children and families, improves the early childhood workforce and quality of our early childhood system, and looks at that early childhood comprehensive system. So I'll zoom in to a few of these areas, and you can explore these on the website itself. And we can put that link in the chat as well. But part of our funding for this re-engaged work group and committee together will come from the preschool development grant, including incentives for our participation here together. So we want to make sure that we are honoring our time and our voices. So stay tuned for that. And we look forward to bringing some of those funding directly to the group here. We'll put that link in the chat in case you didn't yet get to grab the QR code. Megan, if you can go ahead and put up one more time the evaluation QR code, we would really love to hear from you, as Nayesti said, because we want to make sure that our time is well spent and that we are all leaders together in this process. So please fill that out since you've been given a few extra minutes of your day. And we look forward to seeing your input there and you the next time.
Perfect. Thank you, Rachel. Now we're just gonna stay over, so you can take your time to fill out your doodles, your evaluation. I'm also gonna stay, and the whole team is gonna stay here in case you have any questions. But like I said, we'll be sending the next steps with the recap via email pretty soon. And then, of course, we're gonna be locking in those February and March meetings, so you have time to, allocate your time and your schedule as needed.
Hola, solo una pregunta. ¿Se tienen que hacer las encuestas de marzo y... déjenme ver. Las encuestas que tiene aquí en el link de marzo y...
Sí,
¿De febrero? ¿Las
sí,
dos?
sí, la
¿O las
encuesta,
tres?
bueno, la encuesta de febrero y la encuesta de marzo es para ver su disponibilidad para agendar las siguientes 2 citas, que es la de febrero y la de marzo. Entonces, cada una concuerda a su mes. Y la tercera es una evaluación, y la evaluación es para saber cómo estuvo la presentación, los temas y los tópicos que tomamos y cómo podemos también mejorar.
Ok, ya la envié. Nomás preguntaba por las dos primeras. Gracias.
Muchas gracias por preguntar. Any other questions? ¿Alguna otra pregunta? Okay. So if you're done filling out your evaluation, we'll see you next month. And like I said, we'll be sending that date and time. Si ya acabaron la evaluación y todos los pasos requeridos, pueden irse de la junta y muy pronto les mandaré una comunicación indicándoles la fecha y el día, al igual que la hora en la que nos vamos a juntar en los siguientes 2 meses.